Good afternoon, everybody. It is my joy and pleasure to welcome you to the Glastonbury Goddess Temple Teachings Lammas Symposium. And this afternoon, I'm here, sat in sunny Avalon, with Kathy Jones and Kit Crowther, who are going to talk about the Priestess of Avalon training and their personal journeys with the goddess in Avalon. Over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who is here, and thank you to Georgia for organizing everything and making all the connections that we need. So I'm Kathy Jones. I am the founder and initiator of the Priestess of Avalon trainings. And this is...
Hello, I'm Kit Crowther. I'm a Catherine really, but I call myself Kit and have done for a very long time. We are here in this beautiful isle, this mysterious Isle of Avalon, and we are supported by an entire community now of priestesses and priests. And my first question that we're going to discuss is how that all happened, how we end up today with this thriving community. And Kathy, as founder, is the best person to ask.
Okay, so the Priestess of Avalon training, and priestess is a word that includes priest. The priestess training began in 1998, and the first group, it was a large group, there was maybe about 33 people, mostly women, but 33 people at the end of that first year initiated as priestesses of Avalon, millennial, because the millennium was coming, and so they were the pre-millennial priestesses of Avalon. The idea had come out of the Goddess Conference, which had begun earlier in 1996. And when the Goddess Conference began, we needed ceremonialists, and the thing with having ceremonialists, we worked initially with people that I knew who'd taken part in the sacred dramas we had created in the 1980s. But my thought then was we actually needed people who really knew what they were doing as priestesses. And I had thought for quite a long time about a priestess training, and the title Priestess of Avalon was something that was at different times that name came up, but it felt very presumptuous to think that I might be able to teach such a training myself. I had taught goddess workshops and done lots of seasonal ceremonies and all of that kind of thing for maybe 20 years before then. So the idea of a longer training was quite daunting, but I was very afraid to do it. But then we began, and then at the end of the first spiral, there were these people who were then were naming themselves as Priestess of Avalon. But at the time, I thought, well, we have done all this, but actually we know nothing. We are really at the beginning, and this is like people don't know what they're doing. So over the next maybe 5 years, the training developed from 1 year to become 3 years long. And even now, we say, at the end of 3 years, you are only really at the beginning of understanding what it means to be a priestess of Goddess and to be a priestess of Avalon. And Goddess, in all her amazing and wonderful creative nature. And then Avalon, this sacred Isle of Avalon, which is a place of magic and mystery, and how we teach about that magic and mystery, how we that has evolved over time. So at the beginning, I taught the first spiral, and then the second spiral, we call them spirals, 3 spirals of learning. So at first I taught the first year, and then the second year, and then added the third year, which is really the deepening of the relationship to Avalon, the sacred land of Goddess that is accessible here as well as other places in the world. So it's been, we are now in our 26th year of teaching the Priestess of Avalon training, and over that time have gained a lot of experience and knowledge, and new teachers have come in and taught for a while, and Kit has been here. Kit now teaches the first spiral of the Priestess training. Luna Silva used to teach the first spiral and is going to teach the second spiral in the coming year, and then I teach the third spiral, and hopefully that all works.
And I love the description spiral. It is one of the ways this has transformed my life, because it's knowing that with every year that you go around, whether that's the solar year or the Priestess year, which starts in Samhain, that you're never in the same place the year after as you were the year before, which is why spiral works so well instead of circle, isn't it?
Yeah, and the years are spirals because so when I began, there was very little common information about Goddess and about Goddess in these lands, in Britain, in Bridget's Isles. There was very little. So when we, because all the traditions had really been broken, they'd been moved about. There are no lineages from earlier times about how do we learn who Goddess is, how do we learn about her. So we return to the way that we learn about Goddess is to recognize her in the way she expresses herself in her nature through the cycles of the seasons. And in the traditional festivals of the year actually begins at Samhain, which is around November the 1st, October the 31st. It begins then, and then you go through a process through the year of stillness, and then of rebirth and of growing and expanding and blossoming and fruiting and and then aging and dying. So in nature, everything follows this cycle. Everything that is living follows this cycle. So when we want to learn about the different faces of Goddess, we follow this cycle. We follow how we can learn about her from the ways in which she shows herself to us all around in her nature. And it's kind of very obvious when you start to look how much you can see and understand about her in that kind of a way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that is in the first spiral. The second spiral of the training, the second year, is about teaching priestess skills, which we have reclaimed through time. Such things as scrying, oracling, embodiment of Goddess, how to do ceremonies that work. So a ceremony is not just, stand somewhere, say a few words, sing a few songs, and then we all go home. It's really about how do we transform the way the world is? How do we heal the wounds we all carry? How do we engage with her nature and learn about her? But Kit here is teaching the first spiral, and I would love you to say something about how that is for you.
The first spiral, and I think all the spirals are the same, is an embodied path. And I think it's a really important and powerful word embodied, because so often people, when they come to this path, which is a path, we've been through the cycles of learning through patriarchy in our childhoods, and this is a way of actually stepping through and walking the path. A lot of spiral one is about walking her land here in Avalon, going back and walking your own land, but specifically on spiral weekends, walking her land, getting to know here her body. We are her temple and she is our temple. So this is about really remembering her and bringing her back into our hearts, because this is the path of the heart. And I think that's a really powerful way of looking at that, because that's how I came to this path. That's how I came to this path as a priestess. It's how I feel I came to the path as a teacher as well, is opening my heart to what felt right, but opening my heart to her love, and just surrendering to everything that I could feel very deeply in my heart. Sometimes feels like your heart opening, isn't it? And that's how I see the teaching as well, and walking, being in the transformation. So every year, any of us as teachers teach, we are also walking that path ourselves. So this is a path of our transformation and our learning as well. And each step, and as Kathy said about all the different aspects around the wheel, we walk that with her as well, and with the Morgans, with Britannia, the Lady of Avalon in these lands. And it is a path of absolute joy. I remember that so clearly as being a student in the first spiral, that amazing connection of feeling I've truly found where I belong and who I belong with and who I belong to in a way. I feel as if I reclaim my previous lives as priestess. And I think that's the same for a lot of people who walk and who feel called to here, is because we feel the chimes of those now silent bells from our way back memories, where it's just the way it feels like a cloak you're putting back on. And so that is another facet of being a teacher, is reclaiming that. I know I've been here before, and this feels like it is not a path because I choose it. It's because a path because I can't do anything else.
Okay. We have been, I think we have been establishing a new lineage of what it means to be a priestess, and a lineage of teaching as well, that is hopefully going to continue further through time, and that every group of students who comes is different. It's extraordinary how each year of people is very different. We do have things like, we have codes of conduct, we have ways in which we expect students and ourselves to behave. So we all agree to a code of conduct, which is primarily about loving and caring for each other, is about taking responsibility for our own emotional wounding, because this is a priestess training. It's really, we are teaching people to become priestesses, giving the skills, giving the knowledge and the skills, and it can't also be a psychotherapeutic course, because that's a whole other world. But many people who come and take part are emotionally and psychologically damaged by patriarchy, because we've all grown up within a patriarchal society that has affected how we are and how we behave. And we really want to change our own behavior and the behavior of others, so that we create a more loving and cooperative world in which we all want to live. And I think, now, I don't know, several hundred people have gone all the way through all the 3 spirals and are out in the world as priestesses and priests of Goddess and of Avalon. We have both an in-person training and a correspondence training. So in the in-person training, in the first spiral, you come 8 times in the year. In the second spiral, you come 8 times in the year. And in the third spiral, you come 4 times in the year. The correspondence training, which is for people who live abroad and who cannot get here that often because of travel and cost and expense and everything, they come 3 times in the first and second spiral, and 4 times in the third spiral. So, they have There is homework to do each time. This is not like most other courses where you go for a weekend and that's it, and everything is contained in the weekend, and then between you forget about what you've been doing. It is about a living path. It's a way of being and living, and becoming. And people move gradually. It's not like a fast process where, and as we said at the beginning, you do the 3 years to get to the beginning, where you start to practice out in the world as her priestess. And that means different things for different people. So for some people, they may become a ceremonial priestess, and that's what they do. They may become a healer priestess, or a musician, singer, temple singer, temple dancer, temple, or whatever your passion is, you can express your priestessing through your passion, or your passion becomes your priestessing. And there are many priestesses in other countries, and we encourage people to take what they learn here and apply it in their own lands. So we work with the Wheel of Avalon, which is a way of experiencing goddesses here and their different faces and names that come from mythology and the culture of this land. But in other lands, she has different names and different faces. So how do you apply the framework that you learn here in another culture? You learn the framework, and then you create new wheels. So wheels are for different countries depending on landscape and weather and where you are on the planet. So it's that kind of thing. And many of our priestesses have created their own priestess trainings, have created goddess temples, have created goddess conferences, lots of events and workshops around the world, from France and Spain and Portugal and Italy and Sweden and Scandinavia as a whole, and Australia and Japan and America, Canada, South America. So, out in the world, and people are being creative out in the world, which is fantastic. And they're doing what they want to do. What goddess inspire, what the lady inspires them to do out in the world. It's fantastic. So it's very, yeah.
Well, I have some applicants that sometimes ask, how do I hear the call? What would you say about that one? How do we hear? Because it's not always audible, is it? For me, it's hard as well, but I felt that call.
I'd say for hundreds of people, it's the word Avalon. That word is the word that calls people. It's like it's very, in the current time, and maybe the last 20 or 30 years, it's a very magnetic word, and people hear the word, and there's something in them goes, what was that? What was that? I want to know about that. And they don't know what that is. They just hear the word. And they might read it in a book, or read it in a magazine, or hear it on TV or somewhere, in a film, whatever. And that word pulls. That word pulls you. It pulls you so that you start to find out. And of course, here in Glastonbury, we are very fortunate because, things build on each other. And we have built with the Goddess Conference, which has also been in existence since 1996. Yeah? And then the Priestess training. And then out of the Priestess training came the idea, wouldn't it be great, instead of just meeting in the 8, why can't we meet every week? Why can't we have a space every week? So, and for me also, the Goddess Temple came from, me and my husband, we travel a lot, been to lots of ancient goddess sites in the world, lots of them. And one time we went somewhere and we went to a temple, and again, the temple was in ruins. I was in despair, really. I was so upset that here we were in another place where there was a goddess temple in ruins. And at that moment, I made a pledge, which was in about 2000, that I was going to go home and create a living goddess temple. So, which is what I did. I came back and asked other people if they would be interested. So then the goddess temple began, and lots of people came and helped, and so there was the temple, the priestess training, the goddess temple, and the goddess temple grew and expanded. We had goddess temple gifts and a shop, and then we got the goddess hall because we needed a bigger space to have bigger ceremonies because everybody wanted to come to the ceremonies. So we got the goddess hall, which is where our teachings take place. And the goddess hall is it's great. Everything we have, I'd say, is really beautiful, colourful. Yeah, we like beauty and images. And then we got the goddess house, which is our healing and educational centre, which is another big building where you can go and have all kinds of therapies and healing, because we're all wounded, we all need healing. So actually everything has unfolded of itself. And people quite often say, well, how did it happen, and so, well, there was never a plan. There's not a plan in that way. There's just, here is the next thing, do this, and then of course the vision of Mother World, the Mother World as a society that places mothers in the center, mothers' love, care, and support for each other in the center of society, and everything has evolved of its own, on its own. And the priestess training is a kind of vital, central part of everything, because it's the priestesses who make everything happen.
And you've published a second edition of your
Priestess of Avalon.
Priestess of Avalon, which is here.
I know that.
Yes. Which is a phenomenal, I'm going to say the word book, but it's so much more than a book.
It's a book.
It is a book, but it is so much more. But in response to students as well, we do continually review how we teach. And one of the things we've done this last year is adapt the way we use Facebook Live for the correspondence students, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that the correspondence students who are only in person 3 times a year are so much more included every season, and some of the shares that we do in terms of what's going the season and everything that brings, some of the journeys and some of the teaching. And I think that's proved really helpful to students who live somewhere else. They feel more of a connection to the circle and the group. And I'd say one of the most important things for students is the year circle that they are a part of. They become very close. People become very close to each other, and that closeness continues years afterwards. It's very beautiful to see. And then we have other kind of groups where everybody from all the years who've trained can meet and communicate and meet each other and share what they're up to and what they're doing and how things are. And after the first year, when people self-dedicate as priestesses or priests of Avalon, we also have an orchard gathering in February, don't we, to encourage everybody within the orchard to come back and share how they are and just meet. And it's a wonderful meeting space where you can learn and just reconnect and remember each other as well, and just get that heartfelt connection with her land as well. We do some walks in the land that weekend as well. And
so I think we are both very happy to share this with you, and we hope some of you will feel encouraged to come and join us and to have some fun with us. I wouldn't say the journey is all fun.
It's a transformational
It's a
journey.
transformational journey, but there is lots of support. So there, in every year there are lovelies, and the lovelies are people who've done the training and who come in to support the tutor and support the students. So that over the years we've learned to create kind of holding spaces for people as they meet their stuff, really, as they journey through their experiences and start to find out who they are, who you want to be, who you truly are, as opposed to who you have learned to be from, you know, your society, your family, your conditioning, all that kind of stuff. It's like, who do you really want to be? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who do you want to remember? Which parts of you do you want to remember to become your whole authentic self?
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you very much for being with us. Yeah, we hope to see you here in Avalon. Actually, Kit has a taster session for
7th of September. I think it starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because we're trying to be inclusive of everybody across timelines. And
it's online.
It's online, this one. So next year we're hoping to do 2 in person and 2 online, but this year we've started it off with 1 of each. The in-person one's already been completed, but the 7th of September, please do look at the Goddess Temple teaching site.
GoddessTempleTeachings.co.uk.
Yes.
And for all that we offer, you can find lots of information there about how to join us and be great. Yeah.
And you hear the call, you're not hearing it for no reason. Listen.
Listen and respond. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you.